Now call to order the meeting of the Omaha Planning Board. The Planning Board members that are here today are John Sullivan, Patrick Morris, Vice Chair, and I'm Michael Pate, Chairman. Members of the city staff that are in attendance: Assistant Planning Director Michael Carter, current Planning Manager Jennifer Taylor of the City Law Department, and Kathy Epperson, our Recording Secretary. Our rules of procedure are as follows. Notice of this hearing has been published. Copies of today's agenda are located on the table in front of us. You're welcome to come down and pick one up right up here. The cases on the consent agenda will be heard first. Consent cases that have been recommended for layover have already been heard or are perceived by the Planning Board to be non-controversial. Therefore, they will be read and voted on without the opportunity for you to state your opinion on the case. If you wish to have this case discussed during the hearing, you may have that case removed from the consent agenda. To do so, when each consent case is read, I will ask if anyone wants the case removed for discussion. If you do, please stand up, raise your hand, and say so, and the case will be removed. The case will then be heard after we vote on the cases that remained on consent agenda. When the case is heard, you will have the opportunity to come to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and give your testimony at that time. When hearing cases on the regular agenda, the board will first hear from the applicant, and after the applicant states their case, we will hear from the proponents, and then we will hear from the opponents. After both sides are heard, the public hearing will be closed and no additional testimony will be permitted unless a board member requests additional information. When at the podium, please clearly state your name, address, and whom you are here represented for the record. Your testimony is very important to us. In the interest of time and courtesy to others, please be short and to the point. We will try to limit each case to 10 minutes. Those directly involved in the case, please speak first. We request that large groups select a spokesperson to represent that group, therefore eliminating any repetitive testimony. When giving testimony, please provide new information and try not to repeat what has been previously said. We do ask that all speakers and others be treated with courtesy and with respect. In that regard, please remain silent while seated and please turn off your cell phones. Our decision to approve, deny, or continue a case made here today will be forwarded to the City Council for another public hearing and final disposition by City Council. Conditional use permits are an exception to this rule. The board's decision made here today on conditional use permits are final and not forwarded on to the City Council. Lastly, upon the advice of the Law Department, all communications to the board members from attorneys or other interested parties should be transmitted through the Planning Department so that they are made part of the public record. The department will then transmit all that information to the board as well as to the rest of the public. A current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act can be found in a white binder in this room. I don't have any changes to the agenda, so we will move right into the consent portion of our agenda today. The first ones I'm going to read are the cases that are on consent agenda for approval. And again, just so you know what the rules are, if you hear the case and you want it removed so we can discuss it, just please raise your hand and say you want it removed and we'll remove it and it will be heard, okay? So the first case on consent agenda for approval is item 4, case C826003. The applicant is Home Woven. It's on consent for approval. The request is approval of a special use permit to allow general offices in the HI district. Property is located within an ACI, Area of Civic Importance Overlay District, and is laid over from our February 4th, 2026 meeting. The location is 2332 South 24th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Okay, next is item 5, case C898213. Applicant is Earhart Griffin and Associates. It's on consent for approval. The request is approval of a major amendment to a special use permit to allow scrap and salvage services in the GI district. Portions of the property are located within the FF Flood Fringe Overlay District, and this was also laid over from our February 4th, 2026 meeting. The location is 6030 South 60th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 6, case C326058. Applicant is Cobalt Credit Union. On consent for approval, the request is approval of an amendment to the future land use element of the city's master plan from office of commercial and low density residential to office commercial. The location is northwest of Missouri Avenue and 20th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Okay. Next is item 10, KC C326-073. The applicant is Planning Department on behalf of the City of Omaha on consent for approval, and the request is approval of the disposition of city-owned property. The locations are 2435, 2433 Blondo Street, and 1915 North 25th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 11, KC 1026-060, C1226-061. Applicant is Cobalt Credit Union. On consent for approval, request is preliminary and final plat approval of South Omaha Replat 36, a minor plat inside city limits with rezoning from R7 and GC to LO, and expansion of the MCC Major Commercial Corridor Overlay District. The location is northwest of Missouri Avenue and 20th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 12, KC 1226-063. Applicant is Vlachakas. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Properties LLC. On consent for approval, the request is preliminary and final plat approval of Western Springs Replat 24, a minor plat inside city limits. The location is northeast of 177th Plaza and West Center Road. Would anyone like to have this removed? All right, next is item 13, KC 1226-066. Applicant is Oriental Trading Company, Inc. On consent for approval. The request is preliminary and final plat approval of Oriental Trading Industrial Park, a minor plat inside city limits. The location is northwest of 108th and I Streets. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 14, KC 1024-253, C1224-254. The applicant is Lanahaw Real Estate. This is on consent for approval. The request is revised preliminary plat and final plat approval of Fieldstone, formerly Elkhorn Center, a subdivision outside city limits with rezoning from AG to R4 and MU. The location is east of 204th and Shirley Streets. Would anyone like to have this removed? All right. Next is item 15, case C1026-055. Applicant is Jay and Stephen Ling. On consent for approval, the request is rezoning from R1 and R2 to R2. Property is located within an ED, Environmental Overlay District. The location is 12036 North 40th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 16, case C1026-057. Applicant is RME Enterprises, Inc. On consent for approval, the request is rezoning from GI to LI, and the location is 2917 F Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 17, KC 1026-069. Applicant is Freddie Ellis. On consent for approval, the request is rezoning from R435 to R5. Location is 1415 M Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 18, KC 1096-261. Applicant is Fleet Services LLC. This is on consent for approval. The request is approval of a major amendment to the mixed-use development plan for Alltech Business Park. Portion of the property is located within the Flood Fringe, FF Flood Fringe Overlay District. The location is 3850 South 149th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 19, KC 1026-052. KC 1126-053. The applicant is Alan Ramirez. On consent for approval. The request is rezoning from R435 to R5 with approval of a PUR, Planned Unit Redevelopment Overlay District. The location is 3757 North 37th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 20, case C1026-056. The applicant is St. Andrew's Episcopal Church. On consent for approval, the request is approval of the MCC Major Commercial Corridor Overlay District. The location is 925 South 84th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Okay, we're getting there. Next is item 21, KC 1026-062, KC 1124-208. The applicant is Earhart Griffin and Associates. It's on consent for approval. Request is rezoning from R4 and R7 to R7 with approval of a major amendment to the PUR, Planned Unit Redevelopment Overlay District. The location is south of 18th Street and Willis Avenue. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 22, KC 1067-006. 007, C-1068, 197, C-1026, 068. The applicant is Juan Batista. It's on consent for approval. The request is approval of a rezoning from R6 and R8 to R8, along with approval of a major amendment to the PUD, Planned Unit Development Overlay District. The location is southeast of 66th Street and Grand Avenue. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 23, KC 813-225. Applicant is Brett Kluwer for Coffee Tree Country Club on consent for approval. The request is approval of a major amendment to the special use permit to allow outdoor sports and recreation in an AG agricultural district. The location is 2410 South 217th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 24, KC 826-067. Applicant is KV Joint Venture on consent for approval. The request is approval of a special use permit to allow medical offices in the GI district. The location is 4463 South 110th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 26, KC 726-054. The applicant is Roger Rodriguez on consent for approval. The request is approval of a conditional use permit to allow single-family attached in the GC district. The location is four locations are 4512 and 4516 North 16th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Next is item 27, KC 726-059. Applicant is Cobalt Credit Union on consent for approval. The request is approval of a conditional use permit to allow financial services in the LO district. The location is northwest of Missouri Avenue and 20th Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? And the last one on consent for approval is item 28, C726-064. Applicant is Vantage Auto T5 on consent for approval. The request is approval of a conditional use permit to allow automotive repair services in the CC district. Property is located within an MCC, Major Commercial Corridor Overlay District. The location is southwest of 120th and L Streets. Would anyone like to have this removed? Okay. That completes all of our items that are on consent for approval. Now we have one case that's on consent for layover. And I'll read that. It's item 25, KC 826-070. The applicant is Maurice Abram. It's on consent for layover. The request is approval of a special use permit to allow large group living in the R535 district. The location is 4916 North 41st Street. Would anyone like to have this removed? Okay. All right, we got through all of those without any changes. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve those cases that were on consent for approval.
I motion to approve agenda items number 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, and 28.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Morris?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert? Yes. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, next, we had just one case on for layover. I need a motion to approve that case.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert? Yes. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Thank you. I was going to say, if you wanted to stay, you can stay, but I'll be... All righty, thank you. All right, we'll now move into the public hearing section of our agenda. First one is item 1. It's KC 1025-016, C1225-017. The applicant is 500 Skyline LLC. The request is preliminary plat approval of Chance Ridge Replat 1, a subdivision inside and outside city limits with rezoning from AGDR and CC to CC with approval of a waiver to section 5399 sidewalks. Portions of the property are located within the FF flood fringe and ACI overlay district. The location is laid over from our January 8th, 2025 meeting. And the location is northwest of Skyline Drive and West Dodge Road. I think we had one other. Number 7. And number 7, we'll call them together. So item 7 I'll read. Is case C326065. Applicant is also 500 Skyline LLC, and this request is approval of amendment to the future land use element of the city's master plan from office and commercial and Elkhorn Special Development to office commercial. The location is northwest of Skyline Drive and West Dodge Road. May we hear from the applicant, please? Jim.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, planning board members. Jim Bouger, 10250 Regency Circle, here on behalf of the applicant, 500 Skyline. I have with me today Willie Douglas, who's principal in Summit Real Estate Development, the developer of the project and also one of the owners, and Kyle Vole from E&A Consulting Group, who's our civil engineer for the project. So this project is a rehash of a different project that appeared before you over a year ago. Looks much different today. The previous project was a proposed manufactured housing project together with an RV park to the west of that. At the January 2025 meeting, we had some long discussions with the property owner and also the planning board itself regarding the project. We had quite a bit of opposition from the residential properties to the north. Did not like the density and residential type use we were proposing, as well as the RV park. And so following that meeting, my client went back to the drawing board to some degree, also explored further what it was going to cost to develop that project. And anyway, the decision was made to try and move forward a different concept that might be more appealing to the neighbors and might actually probably fit in better with the existing uses in the area and also the site challenges that are existing with this particular site. So you will hear from the planning department in a bit that this we received a recommendation of denial for the project, and there are a number of reasons based on existing master plan issues that this project violates. So we acknowledge that, but what we believe is that, and I have worked on other projects where we have gone through an amendment to a master plan where there are either site constrictions or there are other reasons why an amendment to the master plan might make sense. You will also hear that from the planning department, I believe, that they have had other applications for over-the-ridge projects that are also violative of consistent criteria, and that they're concerned about setting a precedent if they would approve this project. And I'm going to talk about why I think maybe this is a little bit unique and different than even those projects, and why I don't think that it would necessarily set a precedent by moving this project forward and allowing us to proceed with this development. I also believe that the planning board has received a number of letters of support from the adjacent property owners. They like this project a lot better. We had a nice meeting with them about a month ago. Also, I think their attorney is here today and will give you their opinion on how they feel about this project. So the major point that I would like to make, or points that I'd like to make, is why we believe that this is indeed a very unique site, and why we would ask the Planning Commission to make exception to the recommendation and approve this project. The first challenge with this site, and again, this doesn't distinguish itself necessarily from maybe some other projects, but this is what's called over the ridge, meaning that our sanitary sewers supply and processing plant is not able to serve this site, and we can't build a lift station or pump over the ridge. That's also prohibited, and so anything that is constructed on this site will have to be serviced by a septic system or a separate sanitary sewer treatment facility, which we were proposing to do because of the density that was associated with the other project. And again, that's a very expensive proposition to do that. It takes up some of the developable ground, and again, was another reason why that previous project did not move forward at this time. So that would be challenge number one. The second is that this is a relatively small development site. So it's surrounded by, and on the west side of the property, you have the Elkhorn River, and then west of our site, it's all in the floodway or floodplain. And so all we are trying to develop is the developable area or potential developable area of the floodplain and everything that's outside of the floodplain. The third reason why I think this project is a little different maybe than even other projects that have come before the planning department is that this is a site that is what I would call has some inherited zoning issues, meaning that this was this property along with property to the east and north were all part of the city of Elkhorn and all zoned as part of the city of Elkhorn. And that would include these two buildings that exist presently on the site, which are subject to CC zoning. And all of the property to the east of that is generally CC zoned. Mr. Douglas and his team have developed a lot of that property, the UBT facility and the existing commercial buildings. Quite a bit of that site up to where Menards is located was also developed by Mr. Douglas. And again, most of these areas that are subject to commercial development along the major corridors are limited in the amount of acres that are assigned to them and that can be developed from a commercial purpose for commercial purposes, and also restricted by the how far they are from the intersection. So that it's a 204th and Dodge is what call a major mixed-use area that is 165 acres, but that the commercial development is supposed to stop at the half mile, and this is beyond the half mile, as are the two existing commercial buildings. So again, I think that this is a little bit unique in that some of these zoning issues and challenges are things that were inherited by the city and not necessarily created by the city for this particular site. The next issue that I have that make it a little bit unique is as we sit here today, this street connection, this public street connection that's shown on our site plan does not exist. No matter who develops this property, there's going to need to be by policy a street connection made. The city of Omaha encourages connectability of areas, and the cost and expense of not only building that public street as well as the public utilities that need to serve the site are prohibitively expensive for many types of development, or at least not dense development. So again, just another reason why we think this is maybe a little bit different than other sites that might be out there. And then last of all, I would just say that the topography of the site is a little bit of a challenge. There's a hill that kind of runs down to the river, as well as a very steep hill on the east side of the property, on the other side of the commercial buildings. And then you also have obviously a 4-lane divided highway immediately to the south, and does not probably lend itself to being an appealing single-family residential, traditional single-family residential development, not only because of the site vision that you have of West Dodge Road, but also the noise that it creates. So I guess for those reasons, I would just say that this project is a little bit different, and I liken it a little bit to a zoning board of appeals action where the standard is that there's a hardship with the site. And I just think that this site presents some very unique challenges, and so we would ask that the planning board consider and and request that they approve this project despite the recommendations of the planning department. So I might have Willie come up and talk a little bit about what he's proposing to build out there.
Just a real quick question
Yes,
for you,
you
Jim.
bet, Mike.
So you mentioned the neighborhood meeting. When was that held and how many people? I know we got a couple of letters, but how many people were in attendance? at that?
Sure. It was, I think it was February, it was in early February. February 3rd. And there were probably somewhere between 30 and 50 neighbors that were at the meeting, including Mr. Moats, and I think he's going to talk. But yes, and we didn't have a single person that was objecting to what we were doing. In fact, they were all speaking very favorably of what we were trying to do there. So hopefully that's responsive to your question. Thanks, Mike.
All right, so I'm going to ask, are there any other proponents? Willie, I assume you want to come up and speak as well? Okay, but it's up to you, but.
Willie Douglas, 21008 Cumberland Drive, which is just to the east of this proposed project. So we bought this property a year and a half ago. We knew the limitations that were there on it, and we met with the homeowners previous to our planning board meeting a year ago when we proposed the manufactured site there of roughly 87 units. When we come to the planning board, there was a lot of opposition. After that, we kind of took a step back and tried to figure out how we could work with the homeowners there. We met with a couple of them specifically, and this was a plan that was derived with some input by the homeowners. We've developed a lot of this similar property to the east of this property, which is kind of been a flex industrial space, served a lot of small businesses. A lot of need for the community itself. So recently, I believe, and I've gotten a lot of compliments from it, 2 buildings that we recently put up to the south side of the sports complexes that face Dodge Street. There's been a lot of compliments by the way they look. I think coming into the city of Omaha, I'm proud of what we have here, and I think it's a gateway into the western part of the city as you come into Omaha. I think the proposed use that we have and the product that we put up there would be a nice segue into the city. So and I do think maybe one of the other things as we talk about sewerability is we start putting houses in here. Ultimately, if it's septic, I think this is less intrusive to the sanitary situation. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have, and I appreciate your consideration in this.
Any questions for Willie? Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
Any other proponents who wish to speak on this? You're a proponent, correct? You're, okay.
Rex Moats, Moats Law Firm, 131 South 202 Street, Elkhorn. Members of the council, I was at the meeting that the applicant referenced earlier, and there was overwhelming support when we compared and contrasted this to the previous project that had been proposed. There was less traffic for one. It was less dense. The sewage issue that we were going to have with respect to the plant had been somewhat mitigated because these were going to be individual sewage or septic tanks for each of the properties and laterals. The people that live there, they're very well aware of the challenges with that piece of property and going over the hill, so to speak, and some of the challenges not being able to put a lift station in there causes. But I can tell you that from our perspective, the consensus was this was something that the neighbors could live with. So if you're looking for neighbor issues as far as what is okay, I think we were able to check that box off. With respect to the other master planning and zoning issues, I'll leave that to each of you. You have a much sharper knife than I do in that area. But he speaks the truth, the applicant speaks the truth, and we're hopeful that they can figure out a way to make a concept of this project work. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Any other proponents that wish to speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Ramsbottom. My address is 21625 Chancellor Road, and I live in one of those properties immediately north of the existing buildings. So far, everything that's been stated at the meeting today is 100% correct. The original plan was not great. I think everyone that's here would agree to that. The new plan is 100% better. I can tell you, as a resident living down there and all the people that were at that meeting, I did not receive any negative feedback from any of the neighbors that were at that meeting. A lot of questions, but I think those were all answered by Mr. Douglas's team, and I'm here to tell you that I think it's a great idea, much improved. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Any other proponents that wish to speak? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing then and ask Eric to give us a summary.
Yeah, so we discussed this pretty thoroughly in the pre-meeting. So just a few of the highlights or key concepts of why Omaha's comprehensive plan does not support the expanding of office, commercial, or industrial zoning as is proposed with today's cases before you, which include the plat and the rezoning is number 1, and then number 7 is the future land use amendment. Jim had alluded to a few of those concepts, but as he had mentioned, the 2 existing commercial lots, the easternmost buildings that are there now was previously zoned under the city of Elkhorn or a different jurisdiction. Once annexation occurs, there's always a zoning conversion that would convert the most applicable zoning, so that's why those have CC zoning. It's not our intention to take away rights when that conversion occurs. But if those had not been constructed and this land was always undeveloped, building new commercial buildings in this location would not meet our master plan. There's a lot of policies in the land use element and concept element of the master plan that apply to this. And one of the key components is the mixed-use acres. All throughout our jurisdiction, especially the western portion, there are mixed-use triangles at different intersections that represent different size and different amount of office commercial acreage that can be built. That ranges from 10, 30, 60, 80, and 165 acres. 204th Street and West Dodge Road is our largest mixed-use center, so that is 165 acres. Much of that land was previously zoned under Elkhorn under commercial. Typically, when we have these mixed-use areas, as you know, when they are compliant and located in the proper location, those are zoned mixed-use and have development agreements. For much of the area around 204th and West Dodge, we do not have mixed-use zoning or mixed-use development agreements because of that inheritance from the previous jurisdiction. But as it exists, there are already more acres zoned commercially within a half mile of that mixed-use triangle than the 165. So the 165 acre triangle does allow office commercial zoning up to a half mile from that. This location is about 1 mile to the west of that intersection. So, not only are there not available acres if this was, in a location that would typically be supported for commercial zoning, not enough acres, but too far away from that triangle. And then it is also over the ridge line that Jim had mentioned. And so when we say over the ridge line, obviously there is a grade change in the approximate location here. Actually, the ridge starts several hundred feet to the east. This isn't even the boundary where that ridge line begins, but it's further up the hill on Skyline or West Dodge. So in addition to that, the master plan talks about not providing strip commercial. Along with that, there's a provision quarter-mile gap for non-office and commercial uses. So typically that's residential, but sometimes it could be civic or churches. So all of these policies tied together, for really how we have developed for the past 25 years since the comprehensive plan was put in place in 1997. So these are the rules that we've been playing by. on a weekly basis, staff meets on pre-application meetings with potential developers. There are often times when we have projects that are considered over the ridge, and this is a consistent message that staff relays. And I know we went through a few examples. I won't go through those now, but we discussed them in the pre-meeting. So, those are the core main policies of the master plan of why the city cannot support office commercial expansion. As I said, obviously the two existing buildings that are there in zone commercial, those are appropriate. We've previously approved special use permits for different uses. So, we don't object to that being there. But for the remainder of the site, I heard that there wasn't much support, obviously, from the adjacent neighborhood. We heard those concerns last year when a different proposal came forth. It could be a different product. We're not saying it has to be that product. We actually went a little bit further in what we could support because of that proposed private treatment facility. Typically it's acreage residential lots is what you see over the ridgeline, similar to what the neighborhood is on the north. But it's kind of this mix of these two existing commercial buildings and, kind of what's led the applicant to make their case. So I guess I'll probably leave it at that, but if you have, I know I mentioned quite a bit there, a lot of policies, so if you have questions, please let me know.
Yeah, we talked about it quite a bit in pre-meeting, obviously, but if anybody wants to go on the record with any comments or bring the applicants back up? No? Okay. Don't hear any, so you have a recommendation then?
Yeah, so for agenda item 1, which is specifically the preliminary plat, and then there's a waiver of sidewalk for a portion of the new street that is proposed to be installed, and then the rezoning from AGDR and CC to CC, staff recommends denial.
That's on item 1.
Yep.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion? Need a motion for denial, a recommendation, or approval, or layover from somebody?
Conversation.
Or general conversation. If you want to talk amongst yourselves, this is the time to do it as well. This is the time for dialogue. So, up to you.
I guess I'll just go on record. I like the use. I think it's appropriate. I think I commend the developer for taking the neighborhood input and trying to create something that everybody is happy with. That's what we try to advocate for here. Unfortunately, I'm a little torn between, I guess, what the precedent is with future sites, and it's a unique site, but the circumstances are not unique to other over-the-ridge properties, and so that's the balance, I guess, I'm trying to strike with this. But I did want to commend them for taking the neighbors into consideration in that way.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jorge. I think I agree with just about everything you said. The thing is, the developer bought the property knowing the restrictions that were on the property, right? And what can and can't be done with the property, and so and that's out there as well. And the precedent is a big deal, too. It's a big deal. Once you set those wheels in motion, then it's tough to stop them. So that's my opinion.
I think just to expand on that, as we continue our further west development, we're going to encounter this ridge condition all over the place. And I do feel that the setting precedents, especially in this situation when we are so far above the planned development of 204th and Dodge already, we would just exacerbate that by going any further, and that would just invite more challenges to our policy in the future. Did you make a motion?
Anybody want to make a motion, please? Any kind of motion. I just need a motion on the table. You made a motion to deny? Okay, thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Sotolongo,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Rupert,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Rosacker,
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
denial approved, 6-0.
Thank you. And then on item 7.
Agenda 7, staff recommends denial.
Okay, thank you. Same kind of thing. Do we have a motion?
Motion to deny.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Morris,
Yes.
Rosacker,
Yes.
Sotolongo,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Rupert. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
denial approved, 6-0.
Thank you. Good luck, guys. All right, next is item on the agenda is item 2 and 3 together. I'm going to bring those together. First one is item 2, KC 10-11-063, C 12-11-113. Applicant is USS Hazard, Inc. The request is preliminary and final plat approval of Meriwether Place, a minor plat inside city limits with a waiver of section 5384D, lot frontage, along with the rezoning from HI, Heavy Industrial District, to DR, Development Reserve District. Portions of the property are located within the FW Floodway Overlay District. This is laid over from our January 7th, 2026 meeting. The location is 2499 Freedom Park Road. May we hear from the applicant, Doug?
Good afternoon, Douglas Dreesen, 10836 Old Mill Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant. Speaking of unique properties, this property is where the USS Hazard is located. It used to be where the Anchor Inn was, which was wiped out in the flood at that time, or subsequent to the 2011 flood. We thought if you're going to make use of this property, a campground might be an appropriate use. A lot of it lies in the floodway. The Missouri River doesn't flash flood, so an evacuation plan can be put in place to get campers and RVs out of there if that's necessary. We think this is the highest and best use for that property. We have a layout with around 100 RV sites, along with some primitive camping on the north end. The owner unfortunately couldn't be here today, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the project. Thank you.
Obviously, the evacuation plans, I think, is important considering, we had probably 1 in 100-year flood back then, but it could happen again, right?
We've
now.
had
So-
1 in 100-year floods in the last 15 years.
Yeah, so I think that's important. But what happens in something like that if those RVs are, the people are somewhere else other than in their units? They just get...
As I understand it, they have to leave their keys. If they leave and don't take the unit with them, they have to leave their keys at the entry. So that in that case, somebody can go down there, start the IV, drive it over the levee, and get it out of harm's way.
Makes sense then.
So is then the office, is that, I know that it's kind of a temporary office, but is that manned 24/7 then?
I'm not sure about that. I would think so. There may be a property manager living on site, say in an RV that coordinates that.
Yeah, I'm going to read the other agenda item too. I should have read that at the same time because we're going to vote on them. So.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, and it's item 3, KC 8-11-062. Applicant is also USS Hazard, Inc. The request is approval of special use permit to allow a campground in the DR district. Portions of the property are located within the FW Floodway Overlay District, laid over from our January 7, 2026 meeting, and the location is also 2499 Freedom Park Road. So those two are together.
Correct.
Any other questions? No? Okay, Eric? Oh, no, do we have any proponents that wish to speak on this? Okay, thank you. Are there any opponents? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And Eric, please.
Yeah, so we discussed this thoroughly in the pre-meeting. There's a lot of items whenever you're dealing with the floodplain, especially the floodway. So we want to make sure that the proposed use and the operation, which we feel is appropriate. There's only 4 uses that are allowed in the floodway, and campground is one of those. But really, it's in those details of how it'll operate. So we believe our 2 recommendation reports are very thorough, and some revisions are needed to the operation plans, just some tweaks, some safety components to be factored in, and then also some of the another key component is making sure there's an on-site storage system for waste removal from the RVs. So just some of those details that we're confident can be worked out before proceeding to the final approval. But obviously, we're protective and, adjacent to, a large body of water such as this with strong current. We just want to make sure that everything is accounted for and, what ultimately, if it does get approved, that those procedures are followed and, that the operator is diligent and making sure that they do what's laid out. So, I don't know if you want me to go in any other details. We get into some of the nitty gritty, so I'll just leave that open-ended if you have specific questions. But otherwise, I will read the recommendation report. So for agenda item 2, this is the preliminary and final plat. There is a waiver of lot frontage, which is supported. This site is owned by the city of Omaha with a long-term lease from the applicant. And so there is access to the site for already a park road, I would call it, that's in play. So that lot frontage waiver is supported. And then also the downzoning from HI, which is heavy industrial, to DR, which allows the campground use. So for agenda item 2, staff recommends approval of the waiver of section 5384D for lot frontage, approval of the rezoning from HI to DR, approval of the preliminary plat subject to the 9 conditions in the report, and approval of the final plat subject to submittal of an acceptable final subdivision agreement prior to city council.
Thank you, Eric. One real quick question for you. What's the timeline on this?
Timeline's unknown at this point. There, as Eric alluded to, there's a lot of detail to go through. The Corps of Engineers is involved, so it may take a while to get all of that detail worked out.
This year yet, you think?
Not with the Corps.
I'd be surprised.
Okay.
Not with the Corps.
Yeah, you deal with the Corps. Yeah.
I just have one thing for Doug. The stipulations, the conditions in the staff report, is the client acceptable of all those?
Yeah, we're good with all of the
Okay.
with all the conditions, and we appreciate the help that the staff has provided. As I said at the beginning, this is a unique property. I don't know how many times you're going to run into this kind of a deal.
Well, I think the dump station especially is going to be very important, to
Yes.
make that work better. So, thanks. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion on item 2?
Motion to approve the waiver of section 5384D lot frontage, approval of the rezoning from heavy industrial to development reserve district, approval of preliminary plat subject to the 9 conditions of staff report, and approval of the final plat subject to the conditions of the preliminary plat approval, and submittal of an acceptable final subdivision agreement, if required, prior to forwarding request to the city council for final action.
Okay, do I have a second? Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Approved 6-0.
thank you. And on item 3, Eric?
Yeah, so for item 3, this is the actual special use permit to allow the campground in the DR district. There's a floodplain development permit that will be required, modifications to the operations plan, and other such items as discussed previously. So staff recommends approval of a special use permit to allow campground in the DR district subject to the 15 conditions in the recommendation report.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the special use permit to allow a campground in the DR district subject to the 15 conditions in the recommendation report.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rupert?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Approved 6-0.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, next is item 8. Case C 326071, the applicant is Planning Department on behalf of the City of Omaha. The request is approval of the Douglas Street Office TIF redevelopment project plan. The location is 2311 Douglas Street. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department. This project is located on a single lot at 2311 Douglas Street. There's currently a vacant building on the site. It's about 3,200 square feet. The building will undergo a comprehensive rehabilitation and will serve primarily as the home for an expanding law office. There'll be a couple of spec commercial office spaces also included within the building. The developers are, here's a picture of the building in the foreground. And the proposed rehab. The developers are APR Building LLC, managed by Adam Astley. The total investment in this part of downtown is in the neighborhood of about $1.35 million. TIF support for the project is $95,270. This project's been approved by the TIF committee. It's appropriate land use for the area and complies with our long-range master plan. We ask for your approval.
Thank you, Don. Okay. Are there any other proponents that wish to speak on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. Bob Griffith, 11440 West Center Road, here on behalf of the applicant. Thank you to Don for his assistance getting us this far. As he mentioned, it's a small TIF deal, about $95,000 requested in TIF. With me as well today, before I forget, is Adam Astley and Courtney Rui with the developer. They're here to answer questions as well. For three lawyers up here, it's kind of a fun little tidbit. The previous building is the former Cockrell Legal Briefs building, and they, I guess, at one point in time printed some briefs for the U.S. Supreme Court. So kind of a fun little fact for this space. Again, we are hopeful to add a couple tenants to the basement section of this building. It's along the streetcar line, so I think it's an important spot to be rehabilitated. As you can see, the building does need a little help. I think what we're proposing is a significant improvement. There's a large surface space for parking next to it that we don't anticipate needing all of, so there is some communication with the surrounding users to maybe have some parking arrangements to utilize those, and along with that, we hope to make some repairs to that and potentially add some soft surfaces and really bring it up to where we think it should be. So again, we're all here to answer your questions, and we're hopeful for your support.
Bob, is this a tear down and rebuild, or is it a renovation?
Renovation.
Renovation. Okay. How big is the building?
It is. I have that here. 3,380, I think, is the total.
And there's an existing basement in the space too?
Correct. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah.
There is. Okay. Okay.
So the law office will be on the top. They're expanding, adding a couple attorneys, and then hopefully having some tenant space in the basement.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Bob. Are there any other proponents who wish to speak at all?
Good afternoon. I'm Adam Astley, 1412 Howard Street. We're a small boutique law firm. We've been practicing in downtown Omaha for all my career. We really love it downtown. It's convenient for our clients. It's convenient for us to be able to get to the courthouse. But we're kind of landlocked in our current space, and we need more. We need more conference facilities. We need better security. We need better privacy than we have in our current space. And so when the Cockrell Legal Briefs building came up for sale, we were excited about the possibility of keeping our office downtown and being able to move and rehab this place. As you can see from the application that we submitted to the city, the margins on this project are not great, which is why we're asking for TIF. In order for this to work, we need some parking revenue. We're in conversations with the neighboring properties. In fact, the applicant that's right behind us might have a good use for some of our excess parking. And then there's an opportunity for us to improve the parking lot. We've been at least had a few words exchanged with the city about what's necessary to improve the parking lot to meet the ACI 1 area of civic importance overlay specification. And we're very excited about doing that. But yeah, as I mentioned, In order to make this really cash flow properly, we're counting on revenue from a tenant in the basement. We're counting on some parking revenue, and we're hopeful that you'll approve of our TIF application to help with the significant rehabilitation that this property needs in order to bring it up to modern standards, not just from an aesthetic standpoint, but also we're working with our architects on building code and life safety code issues that are, they're not only required, but they're also important to us. So
what happens if you don't get the revenues that you're hoping to get with this?
I don't know.
I like the honesty.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess you're asking about what happens if we don't get the parking revenue. That's kind of an endpoint that I don't see that as being a fixed endpoint. We try someone else, we try harder. There's many properties around. There's the Eagles property that is immediately to the west of us. They do events on evenings and weekends. We've been in conversations with them. There's the Even Hotel to the south. That same management company operates the Holiday Inn Express, which is kind of catty corner to the southwest. And then there's the up-and-coming apartments that are immediately to the east. And then, of course, there's the High Line across the street from us, and we haven't talked to them yet. But holy cow, there's a lot of people that we can talk to about making economically beneficial and appropriate use of that space. So I hope that's a better answer than I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a roll of the dice. I mean, some people may not want to pay for parking down there. So I don't know if that's a condition of you getting this project done.
It's not. We're in this to practice law. We are not in this to be real estate developers. We're trying to put this all together so that we can have a nicer, more modern, bigger space than we have right now with better facilities so that we can serve our clients and take care of their needs. But yeah, without parking revenue, yeah, we're going to be paying more rent to ourselves in order to make this work, and we'll probably end up paying more rent than we might in a different property, say, along the West Dodge corridor or something like that. But
so your clients can expect the hourly rate to go up then? Just kidding. That's an attorney joke.
We're on the record here. I'm going to have to demur on that one.
All right. Thank you. Any other proponents who wish to speak? Ma'am? Nope. Okay.
If you feel it'd be beneficial to hear from me, but
it's entirely up to you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Are there any opponents that wish to speak? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. You guys have any questions? Okay. Eric.
Staff recommends
Mr. Chairman.
approval. Oh,
So,
sorry.
just a comment, if you bring Adam back up.
Sure.
So Adam, I just want to thank you for making the investment in the urban core, moving from one location to another, taking the risk, making the investment, doing the work, making the effort. If we can get 100 projects like this, that's a great use of a small amount of TIF money to do something really good in the streetcar zone of influence. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for the opportunity. We're excited to have the streetcar right behind us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Eric. Okay. Do I have a motion? Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert? Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Okay, next is item 9, KC 326072. Applicant is Planning Department on behalf of the City of Omaha. The request is approval of the 2211 Douglas Street Senior Housing TIF redevelopment plan. Location is 2211 Douglas Street. We'll hear from the applicant, Don.
Good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department. This project is also on a single lot and also on Douglas Street, just immediately to the east of the project we just looked at. This one is at 2211 Douglas Street. There had been a vacant hotel building on the site that has since been demolished. The proposal is for a new 5-story senior living apartment development. It'll be a total of 70 units. 45 of the units will be assisted with LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit funding, and the remaining 25, and those will be affordable units, and the remaining 25 units are market rate units. These will all be in one building. The building will be subdivided into two condominiums, two condo pieces. One will contain the 45 affordable housing units. The other will contain the 25 market units. Developer is Douglas Senior Housing LP, managed by Hoppy and Son LLC, managed by Jake Hoppy. Total investment, here's a rendering of the project. The total investment in downtown is almost right around $17.65 million. The support for the project, TIF support, is $1,133,705. And again, this project has been approved by the TIF committee. It's an appropriate land use for the location. It complies with the city's master plan. It's a appropriate use for the location, and affordable housing is always appreciated in our TIF projects. So we ask you for your support.
Thank you, Don. Okay, are there any proponents who wish to speak on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. Bob Griffith, 11440 Weston Road, here on behalf of the applicant, Hoppy Developers. With me as well as Jake Hoppy, the developer, here to answer your questions. Thanks again to Don. Really did a good job laying it out. It is kind of an interesting project. We're seeing more and more with these light tech deals that we like to mix them with the market rate units. I think that's part of this, and this is also unique in that it is senior focused, so 55 plus. Part of the capital stack, which is very diverse in this case, as you can see, is a contribution from CHI, and we'll be working with them to kind of bring some senior focused aspects to this project, whether that means a very accessible entryway, hearing and visual impaired accommodations, things like that. So kind of a new idea in an interesting location that I think has a need that is ready to be served. The light tech portions is a range from 30 to all the way up to 150% AMI. So some of those 30% AMI units are running very low, and then kind of the gamut all the way up through there. So we're trying to hit a little bit of everything and serve a lot of different needs. So happy to answer questions, and Jake here as well.
Yeah, this is interesting concept here with both low income and market rate apartments or affordable housing, I guess. Has this been tested anywhere to see if it works?
I've done a couple parts myself, and Jake, I don't know if a better person to be able to speak about it than him. I'm sure he can attest to that, but I know it's going that way, and that's the statistics have shown that that's the kind of projects that are successful and what the demand is.
Here in Omaha?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know I don't have the percentage with me, but there's some recent studies as to what the need is for senior housing, and is significant in this particular area. So.
Yeah,
trying to address that.
Well, I understand the need, but the concept of it, not just the need part of it, but the togetherness of both.
Right. I think it makes the project more viable from a developer perspective, but then also kind of trying to integrate the different, I guess, areas, levels of income.
Yeah, it's a good concept. I like the concept, but I just don't know if it's tested or not. Make sure it works. I'm sure the developer's probably done a little research here. I'll call you up here in a second. But, yeah. Okay, thank you. I assume you're the developer? Okay. Any other question for Bob? Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Yes, if I could ask you to come up, please, your name and address, please, for the record.
Jake Hoppy, 840 Fair Acres Road, Omaha, Nebraska, 68132. Jumping right into it. So we have done a lot of mixed income development. We've done more on a horizontal basis. So we have a neighborhood in Papillion, for instance. There's going to be 650 units there. The first 200 are income restricted. 50 are being sold through Habitat, and then 350 are market rate. It is a bit unique, and that was part of the reason we approached the project this way. We received the site in an RFP from Front Porch. So we had a little bit of support to experiment a little, and I think the idea was to demonstrate that what we've been doing, more on a horizontal concept also would apply in a vertical concept. We do not underwrite the market rate units at the same level we would underwrite that you might, a new building in millwork might underwrite its market rate units. They're at a bit of a discount to, what would be a fully amenitized Class A market rate project, and so that's part of the reason why we need a little extra help in the capital stack.
Right.
But we have quite a bit of data from our existing projects about what a market rate project integrated into an affordable sort of atmosphere, what that premium we're able to get from that rent and how that compares to the broader market rate rent. So we're leveraging that data.
Yeah, well, it's good you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if I could jump in. Jake serves on our Housing Affordability Action Plan. He's on the committee and obviously involved in We Make Omaha effort. Your family has been involved in development a lot. What would you say approximately how many affordable units have Hoppy Development or subsidiary or whatever, whether it's your dad or?
We've got 1,500 units in our REO. That'll be 2,000 at the end. We do about 500 units a year at this point. And then probably 75% of those are what we would call capital A affordable, so like LIHTC. And about 25% of those are what we would say is like lowercase a, that are some programmatic intent, even if we're not using a LIHTC.
So is Fred your father?
Yeah.
Tell him hi.
Okay, I'll tell him hi. Yeah, there's a couple other kind of fun things about this. We're doing this development in conjunction with Donnell Brown, who is a developer from the Spark Academy, who graduated from the Spark Academy. So he's our partner. He couldn't be here today. But he's done some smaller development and wanted to have experience on a larger development. And so we're kind of co-developing in partnership with him. And then CHI has been a really wonderful partner. So they're providing a grant. The goal is to have some programming and some additional adaptability for aging in place. So to be able to use this as a bit of a demonstration of once people move in, they have a fund that they're providing us to be able to further adapt units to support the different conditions that someone might have or the different needs they might have as they're, if they need adaptability for eyesight or hearing or mobility. We would have a fund to be able to fund those adaptations to support the families or individuals to stay. So there's been a lot of programmatic intent. We're really excited about it. And then we are also really excited to tear down the old hotel. It was, when we have a vertically integrated, we have a construction team. There are some pretty burly guys on that team. When they're telling you they don't feel comfortable walking through a building alone, I take it seriously, so it was nice to be able to get that cleaned up a little bit.
Vacant? Is that building vacant now?
Yeah.
So it sounds like your timeline's pretty quick then, once you get approvals that you need here, right?
Yeah, as soon as we get, I think we're aiming for an August sort of financial close and construction start. So we tore the building down because we didn't want the vacant building sitting there. We got special approval because there's federal funds in this project to do that, given the sort of scenario. And then we're just finishing up architecture now and ready to go into construction.
Good. Well, great concept. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you do.
Jake, great job. Thanks for bringing your expertise to Omaha and the urban core.
Absolutely.
Small question. I heard the comment that the HOAs were going to be split. You're going to have two HOAs.
There's got to be condo. There's going to be a condo regime. Yeah.
Two condo. Is there what's the rationale for that? I'm just curious.
For a LIHTC project in the state, you can only have so many units. Well, there were two reasons. One, we wanted to, part of the application and the reason why we were selected in the RFP process was we wanted to show that affordable housing doesn't have to be a distinct lot in the urban core. Like if you, kind of from a theoretical perspective, if you rely on the fact that either a project needs to be affordable or market rate, you're setting up a competition between development around who's got the most resources to secure a site. We've done a lot of work showing that integrating market rate and sort of a condo regime can be accretive to an overall market rate development. And so we wanted, and that gets done in areas where there's really high disparities in rent, like Chicago and New York. It's more common. It's less common in Nebraska. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to experiment with it and show that you don't have to make that dichotomy on each individual piece of land, that something like, was it the Duo, or where you've got 600 units, potentially you could make 50 of those units affordable through the tax credit program or something like that. So part of it was a proof of concept. I guess you'd call it maybe for our own vanity or our own an exercise in demonstrating it. And then part of it is they need to be separate mortgages. So if you're going to have the market rate units sort of assembled in this way, the tax credit syndicator needs to be able to foreclose on the tax credit project or be protected from foreclosure on the market rate project. And so that needed a condo regime to really separate them out. They'll have two different loans, the market rate and the affordable. So it's an exercise in sort of understanding what it takes in a market where there aren't such large disparities in rent and how to do a project like this. But what we hope can be replicated by others. This is the reason.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Eric?
Yeah, obviously, Jake and Bob and Don laid it out pretty well. Obviously, great need for affordable housing and just market rate and just units in general, especially in the urban core. So we're excited about this, especially the mixed income concept. That's great. That's something we've done with our choice neighborhood developments, you know, up north and down south. So staff recommends approval.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our agenda items. Now I'll need a motion to approve the minutes from our February meeting, both pre-meeting and regular meeting.
Motion to approve minutes for the pre and regular February.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Kathy, please record the vote.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Thank you. Kathy, please record the vote.
Rosacker?
Yes.
Sotolongo? Sullivan?
Yes.
Rupert? Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Approved 6-0.
Wow, that's the shortest meeting we had in a while.